I have to say this as well. And Jamie, I don't know if the whole audience is familiar with this clip, but it's an incredible, scandalous clip. Do you remember when Joe Biden was at the Council on Foreign Relations and bragged that he got the top prosecutor in Ukraine fired by the Ukrainian government because he explicitly conditioned the firing of the prosecutor who was investigating Burisma. He expressly conditioned their receipt of $1 billion in U.S. financial assistance on the firing of Victor Shokin, the prosecutor, and he said, "Well, son of a b, he was fired." And
it's so crazy watching him brag about that publicly. It just shows you what an idiot he is.
You know what that $1 billion in financial assistance was? It was a USAID grant. Yeah, it's the carrots and sticks, and it's like
find that video, Jamie, because it's a shocking video. And it's just the hubris and the ego that someone has to have to speak of this publicly while it's being filmed, not just publicly, not just in a room, not even just saying it out loud, but saying it in front of the Council of Foreign Relations backdrop.
And actually, before you play this, can I make one quick note for the audience that everyone can look up publicly? The Council of Foreign Relations was. I'm just about to text Jamie another thing related to this. I'm going to pull up the USAID grant so that everyone can see this $1 billion USAID grant that he's referring to here, and what's in the grant details. But when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, running the State Department that USAID answers to, right? USAID is independent but guided by the State Department because it's a State Department function. It has to advance U.S. interests. Well, when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, Council of Foreign Relations had just opened up a D.C. office. They're New York-based. And she went over to them and she made a speech and she said, "Thank you, Foreign Relations, for opening up your D.C. office. That way I don't need to travel all the way to New York to be told what to do." I was the head of the State Department.
She really said it like that?
Yeah, everyone can look this up. That might not be verbatim, but it was as explicit as that, effectively. But if you want to play this,
I remember going over convincing our team or others to convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, "No," I said, "I'm not going to, we're not going to give you the $1 billion." They said, "You have no authority. You're not the president." The president said. I said, "Call him." I said, "I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion." I said, "You're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here." And I think it was 6 hours. I said, "I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money." Well, son of a bitch, got fired, and they put in place someone who was solid at the time.
Solid.
Still, they made some genuine, substantial changes institutionally and with people.
Yeah. So there's two things to immediately follow up on that. So, Jamie, I just sent you two things over text here. The first one is that $1 billion loan guarantee, and then I sent you another one about securing commitments. And then
it's just wild that someone would be so brazen to talk about that so publicly. No one's going to look at it. Someone that was solid. What was wrong with the first guy? Let's go into depth. Well, the fact that you wouldn't think, like, maybe someone's going to investigate what was the first guy looking into. Oh, why was my son running Burisma? Like, what is going on? Why is he making $10 million a year there? What is going on? What is this?
Well, okay. So this was $1 billion. Okay. So this will actually go to the other one. Okay. We'll start with this. Okay. So here's from USAID. USAID announces, now this is again basically the final months of the Obama administration, right? This is right before the November 2016 election. USAID announces $1 billion loan guarantee. Remember, he referenced the loan guarantee.
By the way, do they pay these loans back?
Well, depends on if they play ball or not. This is another one of these things, right? If you're a good boy and you do what the blob tells you to do, maybe we can be flexible in loan forgiveness. Maybe we can allow you to punt the default. But you'll see But these are the carrots and sticks. This is why we infiltrate and co-opt these institutions, and why you have a $44 billion annual slush fund around the world to do this. But you'll see it's the issuance of the $1 billion loan guarantee to the government of government of Ukraine, and it's to support the implementation of governance reforms. So it's for the we condition it on you changing the policies of your government.
And this is already 2016 after we installed a coup.
Yes.
In 2014.
Yes. And remember, the last time I was here, we went over the 2019, Zelensky's first month in office, the Red Lines memo. Talk about how do you prove you're a good boy? Well, when you get the Red Lines memo that you will suffer political instability unless you do the 25 below listed policy things with your government, that factors into what the U.S. ambassador in the region will tell their Ukrainian or other government counterparts. Loan guarantees and whatnot are conditioned on. But so if you go to you'll notice that Biden there used a very specific phrase there about securing commitments. I don't know if everyone caught that. I want to note the similarity of that to, if you go to the other screenshot, Jamie, that I texted you here. I'm sorry that my mug is on this. I just pulled this up.
What are you doing with your lips?
Yeah, I know. We'd been talking right before we started filming about just throwing receipts up on screen. This is just a live stream series that I do on X, and so but that's
they caught you mid words.
I know. But this is $1.5 million. So USAID has given $27 million in grants to the Tide Center, which is the 501c3. It is the fiscal sponsor that gives the 501c3 status to the Black Lives Matter Global Network and to a group called Fair and Just Prosecution, which is basically manages prosecutors who are simultaneously funded by the Open Society Foundation. So they work with Alvin Bragg and Letitia James and all these other ones. And so, but you'll see here in this is a $1.5 million grant. You'll see that exact phrase that Joe Biden used about securing commitments from governments to fight corruption. So sometimes this diplomatic statecraft, this strong-arm pressure is done directly by the vice president. Sometimes it's done by interlocutors, like our state-sponsored NGO swarm, who allow our ambassadors and allow the White House to maintain a layer of plausible deniability, that it's an intermediary saying it, and they can say much harsher things than what can be conveyed and maybe used against you in a formal diplomatic channel. And I sent one more thing, Jamie. If you pull up, if you go to my X feed and you just type in the phrase USAID Burisma, because this is another element of this. Again, how is this all weaponized at home and whatnot? So Victor Shokin was investigating Burisma. Joe Biden personally weaponized USAID in order to force a foreign country's prosecutor to be fired in order to get that billion.
Can I stop you for a second? What was the investigation of Burisma? What did it entail?
Well, I believe it was a similar corruption probe, that there was, that there was misuse of funding. All this stuff is well documented in Miranda Devine's book, The Big Guy. But if you open those four screenshots, I don't know if you're able to center it or zoom out a little bit.
Western Protection is a great fucking title.
Yeah. USAID to help young Biden. This is in 2014. Hey, remember when Hunter Biden's permanent blanket pardon goes back to? It goes back to 2014.
Right.
And so this directs USAID to guarantee loans. So it's loan guarantees for every phase of development of oil and gas in Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia. Now, if you go to the next screenshot in this, this is from this is a FOIA'd or legally obtained internal document at the State Department, which says, despite his ruined name in Ukraine, Zlochevsky is actively campaigning for. He's been sending letters to ambassadors Yovanovitch and Pyatt. They note that Hunter Biden and Devin Archer are on the board, and they say even internally at State, USAID does have cooperation with Burisma. It says small-scale pre-existing cooperations. They're formally cooperating with Burisma in the region. They're noting that. And then if you go to the next screenshot, now this again is State Department email traffic that's been unearthed. Okay, so they're talking about doing co-branding with USAID and Burisma, and the public-private partnership around USAID and Burisma. But then noting, quote, the very sticky wicket of the Hunter Biden connection on Burisma's board. And then they go on to say that, they want to create incentives for journalists to ensure responsible and unbiased coverage.
Very sticky wicket. What a weird way to phrase that in an official email.
Right. What they're saying is it would be a major scandal if everyone knew the extent of it. They know it looks unseemly. They don't want the media to report on the massive conflict of interest of Joe Biden going in and kicking out that prosecutor and conditioning USAID money on it while USAID is directly working with Burisma. But then the State Department, using its media mockingbird apparatus funded by your tax dollars, the swarm of NGOs, as reported publicly this week that 90% of Ukrainian media outlets are funded by the U.S. government. 90%. Talk about a USAID Truman Show.